Okay, folks. Yeah, welcome. I appreciate being together tonight. So let's sit. My talks. I plan out my talks carefully. I do not plan out the guided meditation at all, but we just see what happens. Yeah, and I sort of presume you have something, some way, at least one way of practicing that feels native to your heart. And it can just lapse into that uh, if I do anything bad. Okay, on that inspiring note, let us dwell in the Dhamma together. Let us take good care of the karma of the day, or the week, or the life. It's all come to this. In the heart made so vast that everything has its place. There's no more sorting out what we want and what we don't want. Just putting down the melodrama of self, the gridlock of I amness. And we pour our awareness into the senses. Each moment becoming more alive. How alive can you be in this moment? Maybe you pick up your breath as a way of refreshing aliveness in each moment. The more we hold on to the moment, less alive we become. Don't even look for ground. This moment doesn't exactly care about this life. We learn to tolerate that not caring. We come to trust that taking good care of this moment leads to a rich life. A poem, Naomi Shihab wrote something like, that's what the minute said to the hour. Without me, you are nothing. That's what the moment said to the life. To be fully alive, we have to in a sense, put down our life. Sticky melodrama of self and project. This occludes aliveness. Don't hang on to all the familiar reference points. That's not what keeps us safe anyway. Just come to trust that there's safety in the falling, the groundlessness. all phenomena remind us of our freedom. Okay, good to sit with you. So a quote I saw this week from Ajahn Sujito, as it is based upon dispassion and cooling, the realization of nibbana cannot arise from getting heated up about the host of Mara or from denying its existence. It comes from replacing the compulsive movements of craving and ignorance with mindful energy and insight. Nibbana is the experience of space in the mind where previously everything was densely stuck together in regenerative congestion. In that congestion, a self is imagined that now and then longs to escape from the oppressive host of inner voices, feelings, doubts, and desires. So, to one who practices insight, the idea that Nibbana is a selfish goal doesn't make sense because the mirage of self evaporates as the fires cool. And the means of bringing this about is the selfless Eightfold Path. As a practice, this means cultivating a purer and wiser response to faults and attachments than the counterattack or defense moods adopted by the self-view. Rather than fight the host or get away from them, you have to liberate the host from Mara, the embodiment of suffering. Mara. You have to liberate the host of Mara from all delusion, from all the hatred and fear and belief that binds them with self-view. So, Ajahn Sujito, of course, is a monk, uh, but you get a sense of how profound the path turns inwards. And this is a path that's really not about helping my life along. And the whole notion of my life is a symptom rather than the centerpiece. And the austerity and devotion of that spirit is kind of startling. And I see a quote like that and I have to reflect, okay, do I want that? I would say I have some ambivalence. um, Sometimes I feel like I kind of want the middle path between nibbana and samsara, right? And like that, from the confessions, like give me chastity, but not yet. Lord, give me chastity, but not yet. Maybe. And I think we lay practitioners are still in very early stages of translating the kind of radical gesture of relinquishment for lay life. So the host of Mara, that is an interesting phrase. The host of Mara. Me, my project, my views, ideas. This is the host of Mara. And Mara visits and our so-called life becomes the host. And in like biology, a host, provides the kind of nourishment for the visiting organism. And how do I provide nourishment for Mara? Philosopher Metzinger says, biological evolution is not something to be glorified. It's unknowing, driven by chance, and has no mercy. It's a process that exploits and sacrifices individuals For millions of years, Mother Nature has talked to us through our reward system and through the emotional layers of our self model, our phenomenal self model. We have to learn to take a critical stance towards this process, to view our experience as a direct result of it. We have to stop glorifying our own neurophenomenological status quo, face the facts, and find the courage to think about alternatives in a rational way. So much of my life, is essentially the ruthlessness of my evolutionary conditioning, just kind of bullying me, Mother Nature speaking through my reward system, speaking through Sakyaditi, the self model. Denying Mara is one of Mara's tricks, you know. So we practice radical openness to the truth of this moment. Failing to listen to Mara means that we will obey Mara. We have to see and hear Mara respectfully, respectfully, if we're not to host them. Regenerative congestion, that's like the opposite of, you just cramped, the opposite of space, gridlock. And congestion is a metaphor, but it's also not in a way. Like suffering often seems to involve, energy. And by that I mean like, very subtle layers of feeling experience. Involves energy not flowing, somehow contracted, whirlpools, like, hyper intensities, the whirlpools where things feel stuck, regenerative congestion. Compulsivity always feels dense, like if you were like imaging our spiritual body or something like that, compulsivity would be like, would show up on the image, kind of density. And compulsivity and ignorance, Ajahn Sujita says, ignorance, we forget the Dharma, we forget our wisdom, and suffering in an important sense is a kind of forgetting. And it may be worthwhile to ask, what do you forget when you suffer? That word nibbana gets used different ways in different moments by different traditions, different teachers. And here, as the experience of space in the mind, and how vast can the mind be, how empty and open, unfixated, and the movement in, towards more well-being in this life is, I don't think it can be fully characterized as a move from contraction to spaciousness, but that captures a lot of the heart's movement. And suffering and space tend to be inversely correlated. Suffering's a kind of claustrophobia. The vastness is occluded. And so dispassion and cooling, Ajahn says. So much of suffering, clinging, involves a certain kind of, psychological terms like hyperarousal, maybe all of craving is a kind of hyper arousal, a kind of heat, right? The the eyes are burning, the ears are burning, everything's burning. Heat, the heat of clinging. And tranquility is not numbness. Tranquility is not numbness. It's the aliveness that I was alluding to in the sit, but without the kind of whirlpools that capture the attention. He says a lot in that paragraph. So the ego, the sense of self, the ego is almost endlessly innovative, crystallizing around anything like a kind of amoeba, including spiritual practice, you know. And the word nibbana or enlightenment is sort of catnip for the ego. But this is not a story about the self getting better. That's just more congestion. And the idea that freedom is a selfish goal doesn't make sense. The mirage of self evaporates as the fires cool. The whole notion of the self as kind of like possessing something, some attainment that it possesses, that becomes kind of just silly, absurd. Um, Visuddhimagga saw today is like, I am not anything belonging to anyone anywhere. And we could say nothing could ever belong to freedom or own freedom. Freedom is so often kind of envisioned as adding something, like a kind of accoutrement of the self, but it's subtraction, a profound state of non-territoriality. And so liberating from all the hatred and fear and belief that binds them with self-view. Um, the sense of self, sometimes I have this image of the sense of self as like a hologram, you know, like the creation of you know, some figure by like arranging light in a particular way, and the lights creating the impression of self are made, you know, of you know, fear, clinging. And so the dissolution of self, if it's genuine, can only lead us to care more. And when the self system is no longer the site of endless curation, what's left is the rest of life, very open. And the self re-arises, but we know a little more deeply how innocent it is. It's not a host for Mara in quite the same way. So I offer this for your consideration, and please pick up what's useful and leave the rest behind. Yeah. Okay, so thanks, folks. Um, let's see, it's this week IMC is supporting Save the Children at org, money going, I believe, primarily to Gaza, Darfur. for to protect children. So I put the link there in the YouTube video, and also I put a link to a form to uh, um, submit questions. So that's let me see if I can get it here too. Okay, there it is also in the chat, but it's in the description. And yeah, submit some questions, and it's helpful for me to know what's on your mind and get inspired by your curiosity. So see you next time, and yeah, wish you all well. Okay.